So for this video, I'm going to be installing these Ronnie's highway pegs on my 2009 Kawasaki Concours 14. You can see here that I've already installed the Buell foot peg modification to lower the rider foot peg by about an inch or so, and we'll be installing Ronnie's pegs on in addition to this. And just as a disclaimer right up front, the reason I'm doing this on video is because these instructions are somewhat complicated, for me at least, in terms of drilling and tapping new holes to mount the brackets in. And I'm hoping that if I do it right, the lessons I learn along the way might help out somebody else. And as a secondary disclaimer, while this comes with detailed instructions, I have to admit, between the instructions assuming that I already know what I'm doing with regards to drilling and tapping, and my own ADD, I am going to do my best to follow them, but it's likely that I'm going to make some stuff up along the way as well. Okay, so the first things first, the instructions say put it up on the center stand, and they say to put the kickstand down to get it out of the way. So the next thing we have to do is, if you can come right up over here, there's two parts here to this linkage, and we've got to break those apart. So I've got two 10mm wrenches. I'm going to put one on this side like that, and I'm going to put one, I'm going to be able to get it over the top here like this. Can you see that pretty good? Okay, and then I'm just going to do a little twist and get it started. All right, so it's finger loose, finger tight, yep, and leave it like that. And then I'm going to take a, what is this, a 6mm Allen wrench, and I'm going to break loose the shifter pedal and take that out, that bolt out. Let's go ahead and take it all the way out there. Okay, and get that to come loose. Oops, don't lose your washer here. And then I'm going to, now that this is kind of loosey hanging, besides dropping everything, I'm going to unscrew this the rest of the way out by hand. And just keep, it's kind of a long bolt that goes down inside there that holds the shifter linkage in place. So I'm just going to keep taking that out until it's out like that. And then I'm going to make sure I pick up the pieces here and put this back through in the right direction, put the washer on it, and I'm going to go set this aside. Okay, so now we got to remove the assembly here that has the foot peg on it, and that's just this bolt here, and there's another one right underneath here, and we're just going to use that same, I believe it's the same 6mm, and just break each one of those loose. To make this easier on myself, just take that off and take those out. Now we're going to hang on to these bolts as we're going to need them for the next step. Oops. Take that, put that there. So you're just taking this assembly off, and we'll set this to the side for now. Now the next step is to clean out the threads in these two holes using the tap that comes with it. And you can see I've got this T-handle attachment. What actually comes with the kit is this tap, and you need yourself a good T-handle for working the threads. So put that in there, tighten it up. See the mosquitoes flying around here driving me crazy. We're just going to take this and put it in, start to thread it into the hole. Okay, and we're just going to work that all the way down. I really don't know what I'm doing, but it seems like it's okay. You can see it's pushing some crap out of the back of that, cleaning out this threads nicely. I said take it almost flush. Okay, and then we'll take that back out. I may edit this down later so you don't have to watch me twisting this around and around and around, but Same thing with this one. Yeah, I can definitely see having a good T-handle for this is very important because it gives you the leverage that you need to twist that around. I'll take that almost down flush. Okay, that's good. Let's go ahead and pause that. You can see down here all the dirt and filings that came out when I did that. I'm gonna have to clean that up. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so much, but we'll have to hope and assume that's okay. But it's good for you to see that, just in case you get the same thing and you know it's the same as what I had. Okay, now the next thing it says is to clean out the holes that we just threaded. So I'm gonna put a little cloth back here in my WD-40. Try not to get it all over the place completely, but at least clean that out like that. And just to see, it's not in the instructions, but yeah, that thread's in there. These are the original bolts, and those thread up in those holes very nicely now with the threads cleaned out. So I'm guessing that means I did something right. Alright, and now we'll go on to the next step where we will get down to, before we do that, let me just point out something here. These are the original bolts, these are original holes. You can see these slightly like indentations here and here. The way that this bracket mounts for the highway peg is it's going to mount on top of those original holes, but then it's also got bolts that go into here that basically will allow us to mount a piece of metal in the middle and then mount this back on top. So what we're going to be doing is tapping these holes through with a drill first, and then with the tap afterwards to thread them, and then that will help us, that will give us the mounting holes that we need to put everything back together again. So you'll see a little bit more how we're going to do that in the next step here. Alright, so now what we're going to do now is take this, which is the actual highway peg, and we're going to mount it onto here, and we're going to use these holes here and here, right, which correspond with that and that. Alright, so we're going to bolt them in with the original bolts just for now, and then we're going to start tapping the holes, drilling the holes for those two, which as you can see line up with those two holes there. So the first things first, let's, oops, yeah, there we go. Let's get that. Let's get that. The instructions say to take this down snug, so I'm just going to do it with my fingers here. Alright, and that basically sets us up. Now what we're going to do next is start to drill those holes. Alright, thank you, baby. Okay, now what we're going to do next is take the 5/16 drill bit, and we're going to, what he called, I think in the instructions, spot tap the holes here. So we're just going to start a little tiny bit in each of these. Right, and I think that he picked this bit size because it fits in the hole perfectly, even though this isn't the final size the hole is going to be. Once we start the hole about 1/16 of an inch deep with this, we're going to finish the hole all the way in with this, which is, I think, 1764, so I'll have to go back and take a look at it again just to make sure. But this is the size that's specified in the next step. So I don't really know what I'm doing with this part of it, but I have this that I bought, Tap Magic, which I'm going to put a little drop on the drill bit before I do each of these, and try and keep it at least moist with it. So I'm just putting a little bit on there. Supposedly this helps with the cut. Not that I know anything about it. Alright, does that look fairly straight in there to you? Alright, so just a little spot there. Just a little spot there. Can you get down inside of there and take a look? Can you see inside the hole? Alright. Alright, so we're just going to start with that. Now the next step is we take these off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I just finger tighten these, so I didn't really need this. So I'm going to take this out. And I'm going to take... Oh, maybe I did. Nope, I didn't. Alright, take this out. And now we can see what I did there, right? A little tiny starter into those. Now I'm not sure if that was 100% necessary because, as you saw before, those dimples were already there. But then all I'm doing right now is just wiping off the stuff that got on here. A little bit obsessive that way. So that is that piece of it. Now, for the next piece, he said to take the long cap, the longest bolt that we've got with the slide cap on it, right? And we're going to put this into the existing hole. And this is the part that I think is going to be the trickiest. And I'm scared of this, honestly. This is why I'm videotaping this, because I'm scared I'm going to do the wrong thing here. So I've swapped this out for the other size bit. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this in there too, because I'm assuming too much of this is not a bad thing. And now what we're supposed to do is put this in and make it as parallel as we can with the current bolt, to try and make sure that it goes in at exactly the same angle. And I'm not good enough or patient enough or anything to make sure I get this 100% right. I'm gonna ask my daughter here, who's taping this, does that look pretty good to you? And do both of those look like they're completely parallel this way and this way? Do I need to go up, down, left, right?
Just a little bit more down.
A little more down?
A little bit more. That's good.
You sure?
Yeah, that looks good.
That seems like it's way down, but I can't see, so I'm gonna trust you. Worst case, we have to replace this piece, right? That still look right to you?
Yep.
That went through there a lot easier than I expected. I don't know if that was the cutting fluid I put on it or what, but my gosh, that went through there easily. Now I don't, did some of that get on you? Huh? Sorry, you want to pause? Did it get in your eye? Pause it. Okay, now I have safety glasses on my daughter. Probably should have done that first. I'm not going to bother that anymore. My normal way of doing things tells me I should run the drill back and forth through there a few times, but right now I'm just going to leave it. So I'm going to unscrew this from here. I'm going to screw it into here. Alright, I'm going to lube this thing up again. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing here. Need your help to make sure I get it straight.
A little bit more down. That's good.
I can tell you guys having a second set of eyes is awesome in this, because I cannot tell you if I'm too high or too low. I can tell you left and right, I got it parallel, but without her spotting it from the side, I wouldn't know. Okay. Any get on you that time?
Nope.
All right.
But it smells.
Yeah, it does. Okay, now I'm just going to do a once through on both of those. And oops! I almost got you.
You almost killed me.
Clean it up. All right. That was easier than I thought it was going to be. Now, I'm going to, again, I don't have the instructions here with me. I got to walk over and take a look at them, but I'm going to go ahead and spray that out a little bit. Oops, I didn't spray the right one. There we go. Just do a little cleanup of that. All right. Okay, so next up, the objective here is to take the tap that came with it and go into these holes that we just made and put in threads for the bolts. Now, since I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this cutting fluid on this too, just because it seemed to work so well. And it can't possibly hurt. I don't think it's meant for this, but It says with a steady pressure. This should start threading itself and cutting threads into the hole. I'm assuming it's working because it's turning, but it seems like it's going too easy to me now. I see it pushing stuff out the back. So I'm guessing that this is working. Let's take it all the way down like we did in the other holes. Alright, that pushed it right through. Let's just clean this stuff off the back here so we don't pull it back in. Alright, then we'll undo this. That was a lot easier than I expected. This whole thing was very frightening to me because I'd never done this kind of a modification before. But if you can see down in there now, we got some nice threads in that new hole. Now we're gonna do this one. Put some more fluid on here because I think it's helping. Now we're gonna do the same thing. We're going to create an even pressure, and I can feel it grabbing already. It's cutting. Should start pushing stuff out the back there soon. Yep.
See it dropping.
Alright, and let's clean off the back of that a little bit. And we'll take this out. Oops, that's alright. Alright, we got ourselves some new holes there. Okay. Now I'm just going to flush those out again with some WD-40. Watch the camera there. Okay, and that should be it. That is what we needed to install the highway pegs. Now we're going to put them on. Okay, so now we're actually going to get to the install piece of this. We've done the modification piece. You're going to take your linkage, put it through that hole right there. I'm going to line this up. And then part of what comes with the peg kit are these bolts, which are going to go into the new holes that we just tapped. And I'll get my hand out of the way here in a second once I get this threaded. So you can see these holes are recessed. So when we tighten these bolts down, they're going to sit flush, and that will allow us to remount the foot peg using longer studs through the holes. So I'm just going to take my, what is this, 13 millimeter, which fits on there. It fits inside that recessed slot. I want to take that down finger tight first so you can see how that's going to sit there, and then how this is going to sit back on top of that. Alright, so let's go ahead and tighten these down. I'm just going to get them to a good feel for a typical, I'm not going to torque them. That's good and solid there. I may come back and torque them later. Right now I don't know what the torque values are, so I'm not going to do that. So now this, when we put it through that longer hole, is going to thread right back into the original holes. As you can see there, And this one's going to do the same. So this is now back to the 6mm. Tighten that down snug. Tighten that down snug. And you can see the socket caps they got on these. Socket cap screws, let it go through there and hold it in place nicely there. Alright, and then the only piece that we have left is putting our shifter back in place and reattaching it to the linkage, which now comes through this hole. And you can see we've got our peg in place, which will stay up when it's out of use and kick it down when we want to use it. Alright, so I'll put the linkage back on, shifter linkage back on, and then we're done. Okay, so you can see here that I've got this already threaded back in by hand. What I would have done differently is I would have threaded this on before I put this on, because now that this linkage comes through this hole, I can't swing it up and down the way I did before. So I had to kind of pin this back up out of the way and twist it around a bunch by hand to get it in there, but I got it there. And tightened this, and that's up tight and nice and good. And I'm just going to come in here and grab this and tighten the jam nut on that, and shifter linkage is working good. That's there. And if you bear with me for a second here, stay right where you are with the camera. I'm just going to show you real quick. Come up and over. You can see I've got my pedals here with my shifter right there. I can flip this down. Now I can put my feet out here and give my knees a little bit of a break. I can flip this back up out of the way, and I'm good. Good to ride. Flip it back out. Put the foot there, put the heel there. I can even put my leg out here if I want to and get a little bit of a rest. Alright, the right side is up next. Here we are on the right side of the motorcycle now, and what we're going to do is take these two bolts out, and then we're going to have a similar exercise to what we did on the other side. This spacer is going to go in, and we're going to have to drill holes in the back there, and then this will mount into the new holes, and the old holes will be used with longer bolts for these to go back in. And basically it'll move this outboard by about 1/2 inch, but it'll give us the highway peg that we're looking for here. So we'll start off by using the same, I think it was 6mm. Yep, 6mm, and we'll break these loose. Keep those handy because we're going to need them here in a minute. Now this side's a little bit trickier. Before I loosen this all the way, if you look back up here, we've got the brake line that's attached to the brake pedal here, obviously, and we're not going to detach all of that. So the trick here is, without breaking that, to move this out of the way so we can work. So you can move it up and back a little bit like this, and that'll allow us to get in here towards those holes. And what I'm going to do is pause the camera now and figure out how to bungee this up so that it'll hold it basically out of the way without pinching the line or putting too much pressure on the brake line there. Alright, so we'll be right back to show you how we did that. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you here is I just took a bungee that wasn't putting too much pressure and tied it off up here. So you can probably tie it up off to either one of the bag posts there, but it just holds it up and out of the way enough. And the main thing that I wanted to make sure is when I get to this step that I'll be able to come in here straight with the drill on those two holes. So the first thing we're going to do is just clean out the two existing holes. So we're just going to take the tap like we did on the other side and run it through to get these holes prepared for the new bolts. Alright. Now, interesting thing here is it's pushing all the crap out of the back down into part of the frame of the bike back here. So I'm gonna have to get in there with a little vacuum hose or with a compressed air thing and blow that out afterwards. I don't want that, all that crap sitting in back there. Alright, we'll do the same thing down here. Sorry about that. By the way, I went back and looked at the instructions last night, and all of these bolts are 18 pound-feet. So I retorqued the ones on the other side this morning, and we'll make sure we torque these down to 18 pound-feet. Okay, now get this the rest of the way out. Alright, I was in there farther than I thought it was. There we go. Alright, watch out I don't splash the camera with this. Just clean those out. Yeah, all that stuff's just sitting up in there on the frame inside. Definitely gonna have to vacuum that out. All the shavings are up behind there. Okay, now this is supposed to go on here one way, and it's kind of obvious which way it does, but they say to make sure that the rear holes are above the front. Right, and you can see here the same thing on the other side. On my 09, we've got these indentations, but there's no threaded hole there. The instructions say on some of the earlier models, which I'm guessing is the 08, these were actually threaded, and you don't even need to do the drilling here. But what we're going to do is the same thing we did on the other side. We're going to just tighten these down snug, and then we're going to spot drill those two with the 5/16, I think it was, drill bit, which fits right into that hole and gives us a nice little centered thing. Again, like I did last time, somebody I'm sure is going to give me a comment that says this was completely unnecessary, but I'm going to put a little bit of this tap magic on the drill bit just to tap this out a little bit better. Okay, just a little bit there. All right, that grabbed. I didn't want it to. Pull that out. Hopefully I didn't screw that up. Let's take these off and see how that tap came out. Don't want to make that hole too deep, too big. Okay, I think that's fine. If anything, the top one's a little bit shallow, and hopefully that burr will come off. If not, I can deburr it afterwards. All right, now we're going to take our .1764, I think it was. All right, just hold on for just 1 second. Okay, now like we did on the other side, we're putting this long socket head cap screw in here to give us an indication of the drilling angle that we want. We've put the other drill bit in, and now the objective is to line this up parallel, and I'm going to do this left and right. I've got it parallel. I'm going to ask you, do I have it up and down? A little lower, a little higher? Like
straight across with the other screw?
Yes.
A little bit down.
Like that?
Yeah, that looks good.
All right. You know what's interesting this time? Is I didn't put this stuff on here. And it seems like it's taken a lot more to do. So let me put some of that cutting fluid on there. Am I straight?
Yeah.
took more than the other side did. I wonder if on the other side those holes were already tapped and just painted over, and on this side that was the first time I really had to drill. We will see. Okay, let's put this one in here now. Let's clean this off. Put a little bit more on here. Okay. Now again, there we go. A little higher, a little lower.
A little lower. A little bit more. That's good.
Lower? Am I good?
A little bit lower. That's good.
Alright, I'm going to relubricate this. This is definitely taking a lot more pressure than the other side did. Alright. Take that back out. Let's clean this off. Alright, let's just do a quick one pass through there. Okay. Just going to spray these out real quick before I try and thread them. You can tell I'm getting brave on this second side because I'm doing it all in one shot here, one take. But with everything I learned on the first side, I'm doing what I usually do and throwing caution to the wind, which hopefully doesn't end up in me making a mistake. So let's thread these out. Constant pressure. It grabs on pretty quickly there. See from my angle the stuff getting pushed out the back there. That seems like it's threaded in pretty nicely. I'm going to go ahead and take it all the way down now, but those threads feel pretty. You can tell how impatient I am with stuff here. As soon as it starts to come back out, I can't just do that. About out. See if you can get a look down in there at those threads at all that we just put in, nice and clean. All right, we're gonna do the bottom one now too. I'm glad I didn't do this side first because how hard I had to push on the drill was a little disconcerting to get it to cut through there. Having had the confidence from the other side and how easy that went made a difference. Okay, that's cut all the way through now. Yeah, it's pushing all kinds of crap out of the back. I'll get in there with a brush and a vacuum. Spray these out a little bit. Okay, and then we are ready to, oh, this was underneath there, got it all dirty, clean that up. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the, figure out the right way this goes on, like that. All right, we're going to take the short bolts that came with the kit. And those are actually going to go through here, it looks like, to fit inside that and bolt into there, because this is where the little sink is for those bolt heads to go behind. So that would go there, and then this one would go there, and we would use our, what was this, 10 millimeter? No, 13 millimeter. I'll just take those finger tight at first here. Again, this is me not looking at the instructions for double checking stuff, but just doing what I usually do. Trying to make sense out of things as I go along. Now, I think the point there now is that these two holes go through to the original holes, which is where the bracket is going to mount back up to. And we're going to use the long socket head screws for that. But before I do that, I am going to torque these down to the 18 pound-feet required, roughly thereabouts. Okay. Okay. And then let's disconnect this and this. And I'm just going to test this out first. Move this back down into place. Take a long socket cap screw and start threading that in. And yep, that goes there. And then this one should start threading through to the other original hole. And lo and behold, they line up nicely. Get this hex back on there. Let's just do a quick, nice music going by on the street there for the soundtrack. Let's just take these snug. I'm not going to do kind of a little bit of torque on that just because it was moved out of the way and now we're pushing it back in. All of that seems fine, the brake line and everything. We'll torque those up in a minute. Right now I just have them nice and snug, but you can see if you bring the camera around this side now, you can see how this brings the highway peg up on the side there on the right side now. And if I get on the bike, you can see my foot placement here, bring my feet up here, and if I put it on both sides, that's nice and comfortable. A little way to get my knees a break from being back here. So very good. There's my video for Ronnie's highway peg installs. Hope it helps you out with what you're doing. Make sure you torque, clean up all the filings that came out inside the motorcycle afterwards, but you should be good. Hope this helps somebody. Thank you.